So let's just go ahead and say the thing. Most people think they're really good at establishing rapport, but they're actually just good at being polite. And there is a difference in sales conversations. Right. And I do feel like this is where people get tripped up because they feel like it's like this warm up act instead of realizing this is how the entire conversation is going to work. Because if you do not have real rapport, everything is going to stay surface level. And so being likable is not the goal. Being relevant to them and their business is. They're not going to actually tell you what's going on. Again, it goes back to those like safe answers. And then the big one is at the end of the call, you feel like, hey, this went really well. That call felt really good. We had a good connection. And they end with, I want to think about it. That's how you know, oh, we missed something.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sippin Matcha and helping you make more sales. I'm Scott, your host, and I'll be joined in just a moment by Brooke, my wife and co-host, where in about the time that it takes you to drink your matcha or beverage of choice, Brooke will give you some great sales advice and having those conversations. And we're gonna bring Brooke in. We're going through, we've just had our Easter season. Have our own business. We are helping launch a new campus with our church. And it's probably not an exaggeration to say that we meet dozens, maybe hundreds of people a month. And we have a lot of conversations that sort of go something like, I know of you, or, oh, I know you, but we don't know them. And so I just had one of these this last weekend. Somebody said, hey, I introduced myself to them. This was at a church service. And they said, oh, we know you, because I'm part of the pastoral team. I show up on stage sometimes in that. And I'm like thinking in the back of my mind, am I supposed to know them? What do they know about me?
Did one of those wedding pictures accidentally sneak out of you dancing on the dance floor?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like, what embarrassing moment do they know of in my life?
Oh, so true. So true.
But we are talking about the introduction stages of a sales conversation and so we're continuing our breakdown of your service sales framework. And I think we're talking today about a part of the conversation that most people think, oh, I've got this down. But based on me living with you and seeing you do this in action, like there's a little bit more to it than I think what people often think. And that's the establishing rapport section.
Oh, absolutely. So this is what I want to say. And this is what I want to be really, really clear on. Rapport is building connection and relevance to their business quickly. So it's not just being nice. It's not asking, hey, how was your weekend? Or what's going on with the weather? Or just making small talk. None of that is bad. We're not saying don't ever do that. But when we're talking about establishing rapport and how we can start to separate ourselves from the competitor, we have to build real connection with them and real relevance to their business. That is what we're talking about. And I know, Scott, you were going to mention like, we're not downplaying small talk. Like you need to ask how they're doing. A lot of times on Zoom conversations, we're just checking to see if our mic is working at that point. But that is not what's going to move the business and the sales conversation forward. We don't want to get stuck in that.
Yeah, there's like a cultural norm where we do a little bit of chit chat and that's how we ease into conversations. And that's fine and good and would probably be even a little weird if you didn't do it. But what happens is like it gets stuck there. And then at some point, if it lasts more than just a couple of minutes, like people are busy and they're like, I'm not taking time out of my day to be on a sales call to shoot the breeze about the weather with somebody that I don't really know.
Right. And I do feel like this is where people get tripped up because they feel like it's like this warm-up act instead of realizing this is how the entire conversation is going to work. Because if you do not have real rapport, everything is going to stay surface level. They're not going to tell you their real problem. And we're going to talk about this in the coming episodes, this is what I share with my clients all the time. If you get the problem wrong, everything is going to start falling apart. So if we do not establish that rapport and that relevance with them quickly, they're not going to tell us their problem, and we can't actually help them at that point. And so being likable is not the goal. Being relevant to them and their business is. So this is not like people talk about, hey, I want to build connection. We're not talking about dating. We're not talking about building that spark. We're talking about how they start to realize, oh, you can help me. You can help my business make money. You can help solve the problem that I have. That is how we start to build that relevance that is beneficial to them, to their business.
Yeah, I was going to say, thankfully, like for us, there was a bit of a spark when we went on our first date. So much so that like
It was like fireworks.
we only went on 3 dates before we got engaged. But that's not what people are trying to reproduce on
Yes.
on a sales call. And being likable is important. Like people do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
But it's not.
It's not the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not the whole thing. And what's most important is, do I think you're going to be able to help me? Do I think you're going to be able to move my business forward, solve a problem, do that? And you begin to set that or build that rapport, to use our word, very, very early with some intentionality in the conversation. What happened if somebody's on a call, they're having their sales conversations, they think they're building rapport, but they're actually not?
Yes. So this is how you can know. So you guys can listen to your sales conversations, you can talk to your sales teams, all of that, and you can just start asking yourself, if people are giving you safe answers, if they are giving you like what we call that surface level problem, and we don't know what's actually driving them and motivating them, that's a good indication we didn't actually establish the rapport that we needed to. They're not going to actually tell you what's going on. Again, it goes back to those like safe answers. And then the big one is at the end of the call, you feel like, hey, this went really well. That call felt really good. We had a good connection. And they end with, I want to think about it. That's how you know, oh, we missed something. And that starts when we start talking about establishing rapport.
Yeah, and I think that's like when you're starting out, when you're getting reps in, and again, I'm always going to be behind you in sales reps for the rest of my life. But, and you get to the end.
Because I've had 90,000 sales conversations. So that's why he's saying he's behind. We're not trying to be mean, but he is. There's no way he'll catch up to me.
That is true. But like you feel like the win is, oh, I didn't make a complete fool of myself, and I think the person maybe sort of liked me. And okay, for a little bit, that's good to just like you didn't stumble through it and you got a couple reps. But ultimately, again, like that's not the point of sales calls.
No. And what we want to remind ourselves is in this day and age with AI and our websites and everything that's going on, again, people can do a lot of stuff before they actually have to talk to you. So one, they don't necessarily want to talk to you. Two, they've made a lot of decisions before they've started talking to you. So when you have that first sales conversation, that second sales conversation, those are very valuable and we cannot wing it. And so we can't just hope that they like us and trust us and that we can move on. There are ways to be intentional about it. And that's what we're talking about today and what we're going to be talking in the next couple of episodes with.
Yeah, so if
It's
people
really
are
important to do that.
if people are sitting there and they're thinking like, okay, again, maybe I've got a little bit of to work to do. I'm beginning to see how what you're talking about might be a little different. What would be just like a little bit of a change or a shift that they could start to work on that might help them?
Yeah. So if we say something like, hey, how's your business going? Or tell me about your business. There's two things and those are not my favorite sentences. And my clients get really nervous a lot of the time because they're like, you just shot down the one thing that I do feel comfortable saying. But I'm going to tell you why. Because when we say, hey, how's your business going? Or tell me about your business, it's literally shouting, we know nothing about it. And that's not what we want to do. So you want to ask yourself a question. Am I saying anything specific to them? Or could this sentence be said to anyone? If it can be said to anyone, then we are not building rapport that is going to be building that actual connection and relevance to their business. How's your business going? Tell me about your business. Those are very generic, and you could say that to anyone. And so that's how you can know, okay, I need to shift it. It needs to be specific about them.
All right. So instead of looking for generic friendliness, and again, I mean that in the best way possible, like you're just trying to be a nice person. I'm not throwing shade at anyone, but you're
No,
suggesting.
but we are trying to help people make money. And I am telling you, if you do this, it makes a difference in your sales conversation.
Right. So instead of that, we're saying like, instead of generic friendliness, we're looking for intentional connection. And I know intentionality is a big deal to you and that. And if you're wondering in your sales conversations or how you're processing things, like how you're doing with this intentionality idea, I'd encourage you to look at Brooke's sales conversation assessment. In about 5 minutes or so, she'll walk you through all the different parts of her service sales framework, and you'll get a report back that highlights some of your strong areas and your not so strong areas. You'll find out how you're doing on establishing rapport, as well as all of the different things. And so you can access that by going to buildingmomentum.info/assessment. And again, it takes 3, 5, 7 minutes to go through it, and you'll get some really helpful insights on how things are going. So, Brooke, as we think about bringing this intentionality to the establishing rapport section of your conversation, you're given some advice earlier on kind of a little bit of a shift on how to do that. If you're going to put that in a question that people could evaluate this week or in their next conversation or looking back on their last conversation, how would you put that?
Sure. So this week, I want you to ask the question, do I start my sales calls with something specific to that person and their business? Or is what I'm saying, could I just say literally to anyone? If it is not specific to that person and the business that they're in, that is going to tell you a lot about how you're establishing rapport.
All right. Next time, we're going to come in, we're going to continue this conversation on establishing rapport, and we're going to talk about what this actually sounds like. And again, we'll give some good example, a few bad ones, and some things that might hit a little close to home. Brooke, do you have any last words for us today?
Yeah, I just want to encourage you that you don't have to feel like building connection and establishing rapport is like a dating show and that you're trying to get the chemistry going or whatever the case is. You just need to be a little bit more intentional. And we're going to teach you how to be able to do that.
Great. If you're looking forward to the next conversation like I am, we would encourage you to like these videos, to subscribe to the podcast or on your listening or viewing platform of choice. We always appreciate hearing from you. You can find all the links and all the information at buildingmomentum.info/matcha. But until next time, we hope you enjoy your break and make some more sales.
See you later.